Our top story tonight, the climbing number of COVID deaths include law enforcement officers exposed while on duty. One of the latest, a college campus police officer in Gainesville. 11 Alive's John Shearick reports on the tragic toll it's taking on law enforcement officers in our state.
He was a career law enforcement officer, more than 35 years in North Georgia. Officer Steve Hemphill, 59 years old, most recently with the Lanier Technical College Police Department here in Gainesville. Officer Steve Hemphill died of COVID-19 on January 16th. And according to the Officer Down Memorial Page website, Officer Hemphill was believed to have been exposed to the virus just before Christmas while on duty, providing support at a health screening checkpoint on campus. Hemphill's chief, Jeff Strickland, a personal friend throughout his career, spoke of how those who knew Hemphill are devastated, calling him a great police officer who loved his family, loved the outdoors, his motorcycle, trout fishing. The Officer Down Memorial Page counts Officer Hemphill as one of 217 law enforcement officers across the country who have died from COVID-19, believed to have been exposed while on duty. 17 of them in Georgia, 4 Georgia law enforcement officers just since the first of the year. Steve Hemphill was with the Lumpkin County Sheriff's Office for 11 years. Sheriff Stacy Gerard calls him a brother, a dedicated police officer who brought smiles to everyone he knew. Hemphill leaves a wife and 2 children, the law enforcement community supporting them now, along with the families of more than 200 law enforcement officers lost to COVID so far.